totally fine. Okay, let's go for it. Hello friends, Jessie here. I am so excited for today's video because we are finally going to begin the process of getting rid of this hair. It's actually not as bad as it could be. This is technically dyed.
A little backstory. This hair was done by a professional who freehanded one round of bleach for a balayage and then promptly covered it with permanent dye. I'm not responsible for this.
It has now been a few months and so it's grown out a little bit. It doesn't look terrible from the top, but if you go one layer down, we just have like a line. I should have gone to my friend, she's so much better, but you know what? Here's where we are. We are now in quarantine and I'm gonna do it myself because I'm a badass like that, I hope. So disclaimer here, I am not a professional hairdresser by any means. I have watched hours upon hours of YouTube videos and done lots of research, so we're gonna hope that this turns out okay, but like, if you follow this, try it at your own risk. We're experimenting here. Anyway, let's get into it. All right, let me show you what I am working with today. So right here we have Flash Lift with Bonder inside. This is by Redken. And because it has Bonder inside, I don't need Olaplex, supposedly. That's what I've read. I'm gonna be developing it with 30 volume. This is also by Redken. I have gloves, I have my foils, some clips, as well as these are the really good ones. These are these little alligator clips that actually curve around the hair so it holds a lot better. I have my bleach brush, a hairbrush, and then I'm going to be mixing the bleach inside one of these little plastic containers. You never want to mix bleach inside of metal because it can actually change the composition of the bleach.
Alright guys, this is part one of a 2-video process. So in this video, we're focusing on the bleach process, and then in the next one, I'll show you how I toned my hair and give you the final reveal. So since I'm doing this bleach all on my own head, I knew that I wouldn't be able to move fast enough to let the bleach all process together. So I decided to section out my hair into a few different parts so that I could take my time with each section individually. I separated a line from the tops of my ears up to the crown of my head to start, then I divided that back portion down the middle and pulled out a section on each side to be ready for bleaching. Then to make the bleach, I measured out equal parts, roughly, of lightener powder and developer until it had the consistency of homemade whipped cream that's not been quite whipped all the way. So if you've never made whipped cream from scratch, what are you doing with your life? It's really easy. You just mix some heavy whipping cream with some powdered sugar in a mixer until it looks like whipped cream. But before it turns into whipped cream, it's like this really thick soup, and that's the consistency that I wanted my bleach to be. Then I took a section of hair and teased the roots. This will break up the bleach line when I put it on, making sure that it looks soft and natural. I used the bleach to hold the hair to the foil, making sure to get it saturated really well and trying to give the bleach a jagged line on the top to soften that transition even more. Then I folded the foil with the comb. I wanted to keep everything super tidy. And I continued back and forth, letting down one small chunk of hair at a time. I found it easiest to wear a glove only on one hand that held the foil and then take it off each time that I had to let down a new section of hair. If you have better fitting gloves, then this won't be nearly as much of a problem. Now, I did this process all the way up the back of my head, though between each foil, I actually left a little bit of hair out. This is something that I've seen professionals do to get a really blended look. However, as you'll see later, this wasn't the best idea. Now, the foils closest to your skin tend to heat up fastest, which means that they process faster. So to even it out, I tied a plastic bag around the top of my head and really felt those late 1700s French aristocrat vibes. Then I remembered that I had a quarantine Zoom call scheduled in an hour and a half, so I changed plans and decided to start the second section of my head while the first one was still processing. So I gave up my throne and retied the bag just to the back section of my head.
Cute, okay. So I'm sectioning in front of my ears. And we're gonna save this for absolute last.
And then it was time for my second cosplay of the day, this time of a unicorn. Then I did the exact same bleaching pattern that I did to the back of my head to the sides of my head as well. I already explained that, so let me now take this opportunity to tell you about my dog. This is Kylo. He's named that because, like his namesake, Kylo Ren, he has a black cape and emotional problems.
Let's take a look at how the back is processing. Okay, honestly, not much is happening. This is fine. Totally fine.
It was not fine, but who cares? I'm talking about my dog. So anyway, I got him from a shelter when I first started freelancing a few years back to keep me company at home. But turns out that he had separation anxiety, so it just meant that I couldn't leave the home without him ever. He's happy and well adjusted now, but it was rough. Rough. No,
I just got some of my shorts.
Anyway, I kept bleaching, and whenever my hair was too long for the foils, I doubled it back so that the whole thing was saturated and contained within the foil.
Okay, now where did this come from?
I'm pretty sure it just ripened and fell off.
It has now been over 50 minutes for the very bottom, 50 minutes for the midsection, and then the front ones are all new. So let's remove those. Okay, I'm gonna not show you this part. Okay, so I've rinsed out the back. You can't tell what it looks like yet. I'll show you once it's all dry, but we're gonna give this another 35 minutes or so to process up here. That's how much time is left that this needs to sit. And then we'll rinse this out and then we'll come back and do the unicorn spot.
Look, I'm back. Now, you may notice that I'm talking over myself a lot. This is because as someone who is always improving, I am now a much more advanced organism than I was back then. So you should really be listening to voiceover Jessie, not past Jessie. So after rinsing all the bleach out, I realized that the middle section of my hair was a lot lighter than the back one. This was because the middle hair, if you recall, was up in a grocery bag while I was rinsing out the back, and the heat from the shower actually made the bleach sections in the bag process faster. And although you aren't supposed to use heat with this bleach, that heat really gave it a lift that I needed. And I was kind of bummed that I hadn't heated the back section too. Then it was time to finish bleaching. Doing the front was surprisingly harder than the back because, well, but I worked hard to keep my sections organized, and I did go a bit closer to the roots since this is where hair is naturally lightened by the sun. This section took me half an hour, then I wrapped it up, applied heat, and let it sit another 20 minutes before shampooing, conditioning, and using a hair mask. The hair mask I've been using, by the way, is called Hair Bond Corrector by Botanic Hearth Cosmeceuticals, and it is fantastic for the price.
Welcome back, you guys, to Jessie's Janky Salon. Today it is silver or bust. So let me show you what my hair looks like right now. So you can see we got quite a bit of lift in the last bleach. However, it's definitely pretty varied. So I've been thinking a lot about it, and I think that the best course of action is actually going to be to try to get as even a coloring as possible, because right now we have lots of streaks of different levels of hair, which looks cool when it's blonde, but when I go in to tone it, it means that the lighter areas are going to pick up more toner than the darker areas. So instead of a cool ombre effect, I'm going to end up with a weird multicolored hair where some of it's silver and some of it's blonde / brassy yellow. So let's try to even that out today.
I also realized that all the hair pieces I'd been leaving out of the foils in that first bleach were probably just going to end up a brassy orange too, which would require a darker toner to hide. So that was a mistake. On the plus side, my hair was in really good shape, and I believe I owe this to 3 things. First, the bleach I'm using has bonder inside, which protects the hair bonds as it bleaches. Second, I took good care of my hair when showering, using only lukewarm water, a high quality shampoo and conditioner, and following up with my hair mask. And third, the individual hairs on my head are unusually large, as in each strand is much thicker than your average Jane's hair. My hairs go to the gym. My hairs chug protein shakes and call each other bro. I didn't ask for this, but if your hair isn't as committed to inhuman beefiness as mine are, I do not recommend using as high of a developer as I'm using, or at least not bleaching quite as long or as often.
So some of this is definitely light enough. I don't know if you can see. There's like some definitely pale yellow pieces that we're just gonna make sure don't get re-bleached. This is a chunky piece of foil. Now notice how I'm like spreading it out on the foil to make sure I get all the layers. Because what I don't want is pieces of hair in the middle of a chunk not getting any bleach.
Now again, you're not supposed to use heat with this bleach, but But my beefy hairs apparently enjoy a good sweat, and especially since the back section didn't receive any heat the last time, I decided to use a blow dryer on low for just a few minutes.
Okay, now we're getting there. This is looking really light yellow. We got some mid colors in here, but that's to be expected. I'm gonna get all these out and I will see you after.
After rinsing out the back, I then prepared to do the front. Here's how I felt about it.
So how did we do it last time? Okay, let's go for it. Come on. Yay! Okay.
So because of the varying heat levels from the first bleach, the middle section of my hair was a lot lighter than the front section. So on the lighter parts, I decided to mix the lightener with only a 20 volume developer. Of course, I hadn't actually bought a 20 volume developer. So I mixed up a second bowl with some more 30 volume and just diluted it with some water. It worked okay, but if you can, just buy a 20 volume. Do as I say, not as I do.
I hope this turns out like halfway decent. Be really nice.
After an hour of bleach, it still wasn't light enough, so I gave these good old boys a workout with a hair dryer. This is getting weird, I'm sorry. Then I called it a day. Now, as I mentioned, this turned into such a big process that after reviewing 6 hours of footage, I decided to break up this video into 2 parts, both for your viewing pleasure and for my sanity. So here's a sneak peek of what's coming up next in the toning process.
Oh gosh. Oh dear. This is like the most stressful thing I've done in a while, guys. I cannot believe I'm gonna let the internet see me like this.
Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.
Just a little bit to warm it up.